Hi everyone, welcome back to Salt and Burn This, a supernatural rewatch podcast. My name is Sammy.
I'm Valerie.
We were just here yesterday.
Welcome back.
Yeah.
So I still have allergies. Nothing's changed in the day. Although you have Starbucks. That's not fair.
I do, because I live above one. It's easy to just be like, I don't want to make coffee today.
I'm just going to go downstairs and get a Starbucks. Now here's a question. Do you do a mobile order when you before you go down? I
sometimes do, yes. I sometimes do. Because that way I can just like go in and then leave. It's already ready.
Yeah, it is a small little corner Starbucks too.
Yeah.
I want one. No. No, it's good that
would be dangerous for you. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Just like having a butcher there on the corner. Is that butcher guy still there?
No, he's not.
Oh, like Bob the Butcher's gone.
Like last year he left, and there's nothing there right now. I think it was going to just be a sandwich place, like as they kept the name, and I guess some people went in there asking for their regular cuts and, it's like, oh, can I have, chicken legs or whatever? And they're like, oh, we don't do that anymore. We just do sandwiches. And then shortly after that, he was just like closed up.
Oh, it's a bummer.
I know. The dog store isn't there anymore.
Popcorn Paws isn't there?
No, that was even before. That was like the end of 2019 that they left.
The most expensive dog grooming place in the world, right there.
Well, I don't know. I never took him for grooming, but it was handy to have just like a dog store. Yeah. There, just like, oh, I need some food, or maybe we can hop in for some treats or a toy or something.
Yeah,
it's very handy. Now it's a Cricket Mobile.
Ooh. That's not handy at all.
No, although they did for a while have one of those wacky and waving inflatable arm flailing tube vans in front of the store.
Which, who wasn't cheered up by one of them,
I'm sure the people who lived right above them were not cheered up because it made the motor. Yeah. Great. Season 3, Episode 4, Sin City. Vegas is for wimps. America's hottest Sin City is Elizabethville, Ohio, a nowhere factory town that's sunk in booze, gambling, sex, and violence, thanks to some newly arrived hellspawn. Written by Robert Singer and Jeremy Carver, and directed by Charles Beeson.
To say this is quite the change of gears from the previous episode. So yes. We went from super lighthearted and fun and
slapstick,
just like a romp,
basically. Yeah.
To like, can't use the clutch, grind.
Yeah.
Into not a funny episode and not a terribly interesting episode in my book.
It was very theological. There's a lot of
Bible stuff.
Yes, just a touch. I remember this episode though, for the most part. At least I remember the scenes where Dina's like trapped in the room with that hot demon chick, and then like chatting back and forth.
Yeah, that I didn't remember. So that to me was actually quite interesting. That dynamic. I enjoyed that. This just wasn't. It just wasn't an exciting episode, I guess is what I should say. So it wasn't a bad episode. It just wasn't, as exciting as like the previous one. And
right. So for our then and now recap, it's basically the same old that we've seen the past 3 times, with the exception of the cult. Yeah, it makes an appearance. There's a little focal point on that. Cool, the cult's coming back.
Yep, Dark Side Sam, Dark Side Sam, Dark Side Sam.
Yeah.
Okay, so we flip into the now, and we're in a church, and there's a nun, putting Bibles out in the pews, which I have to admit, for the amount of time I spent in a Catholic church growing up, I never saw nuns in church.
No,
Priests,
I didn't either.
Yes. Nuns were not part of the daily ceremonial, interactions.
Not mine
Nuns did
either.
their nun things somewhere else.
Yeah, I always just assumed it was in maybe bigger churches because my Catholic experience was in a teeny, 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 teeny little town in Nebraska, where I don't even think, like, there was one priest, and I think maybe he didn't even wear his, like, regalia a lot of the time, if I remember correctly. But I mean, that was many years ago when I was young. And I don't think I saw my first nun in person, like a real one, not a TV one, until I came here to New York. And like they were
Yeah.
just walking down the street, and it really was just like, oh my God, nuns!
A nun. Yeah, there's a nun there in my dad's family. I only saw her in family photos. I'm like, oh, there's a nun in the photo. Oh, that's
Yeah,
sister. So and so.
yeah,
But I, again, in my Catholic upbringing, nuns were not a part of the daily. They weren't at church on Sundays. They weren't part of any of
no.
the ceremonies. But anyway, there's a nun in the church doing churchy things.
Yeah, and then a guy shows up in the balcony and starts a very depressing.
Yes, lamenting that God isn't with us. God isn't with us, and even if he were, he's not going to step in and help us. And proceeds to put a gun to his head and shoot himself in front of the nun, who has the most fantastic un-nun-like scream.
Oh my God, it was,
I mean, talk about
epic.
a blood-curdling scream.
Yes.
It was amazing, and I was like, wow!
The head was even thrown back, and like the face was like contorted, and the
yes. It was awesome. It was awesome. And I want to say I was disappointed but thankful at the same time that there was no splatter, because he was this guy Andy, who killed himself, was like framed in this beautiful, fairly simple stained glass window, and I was thinking, oh gosh, there's just gonna be splatter all over the window, and they did not supernatural splatter on the stained glass window or like all over the church.
Yeah, I would venture to bet that they wanted to, and maybe they tried to and shot it, and then the network said, no, you cannot do that.
Yeah, so I was disappointed but grateful at the same time.
Yeah.
And I just want to point out the priest, of course, was like just a hair too attractive for me. I was like, he's silver fox attractive.
Yeah, he was a handsome priest.
He was a handsome priest. And so that stuck out when I first saw him. I was like, aha! He's too attractive to be a priest. He wasn't too attractive, but he was an attractive older man.
Yeah.
So
after the title splash, we cut to Dean and Bobby, who are kind of taking apart, well, it's mostly just Bobby, taking apart the cult for like scientific reasons.
Yeah. Yep. What makes it tick? I just love this. This was a very like domestic scene, like a hunter domestic scene. Bobby's taking apart the gun, Dean's making bullets, Sammy's in the background with his research.
Yes.
It's very domestic. But also Bobby is like, he's not only just taking apart the gun, he's like made his own schematics, like every bit and piece, and it's not just like 7 pieces. This gun has so many parts to it.
I know. It was intimidating.
Yes, very
as a piece of machinery.
Schematic,
So Sam has found some omens in Ohio somewhere, and because there was nothing really else going on, they off they go. Dean is annoyed that they never find anything evil in Florida, and Bobby is annoyed that they keep rushing him in his work. They're obviously teasing him, like, oh, well, you're going to get this done by tomorrow, right?
Right? You're going to be able to make the cult kill demons again, right? Yeah. And he's like, well, I can make it kill you.
Yep.
But as they're leaving, Bobby also says, listen, if you do actually find anything, call me.
Yeah.
Seriously, anything happens, call me. I want to say I'm totally with Dean on the whole, like, why can't we work in Florida? Because like every time I get a gig, I'm like, why can't it be like Opera Jamaica or Opera St. Thomas? No, it's Michigan in February.
Well, to be fair, you did work in Hawaii every summer for like 10 years, so.
I did. All right. So I'm not complaining. So they off to Elizabethville, Ohio, which doesn't actually exist. There is an Elizabethville, Pennsylvania, and there's an Elizabeth, Ohio, but
Oh,
for some reason didn't want to do a real town, at least not in Ohio.
where
Maybe
I
they didn't
was.
want to paint a real town with this,
Yes,
Sin
that's what
City
exactly what I
paintbrush.
was gonna say. Was they didn't want to. Poor Elizabeth.
Besmirch a town.
Yes, yes. That's a good
Yes,
word.
didn't want to
Besmirch.
actually set it in Vegas because it's already its own Sin City.
Yeah, yeah. So I love the driving sequence that they did with this, like all these beautiful overhead shots, driving through a beautiful open countryside, and
it's some of the highlights of being stuck in a car, doing their cross country driving. So they show up at the church in Ohio, and their aliases this time around are like insurance not agents, but like inspectors or adjusters or something for Andy, for the man who shot himself in the church. And the priest explains, Andy used to be this like church going guy, sang in the choir, and then suddenly 2 months ago he just stopped showing up. And that's also at the same time that like other things started happening in the town, like noticeable changes in the town started happening just like 2 months ago. It used to be this town that you could be proud of, and now it's now people gamble and there's prostitutes and
people are cheating on their wives. It's just almost as if they were possessed. Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. So with this information, Sam and Dean check into a motel, and it's a crap motel. It's got mirrors on the ceilings, but it also has the genie lamps as decoration, the same genie lamps that were in Gin, and What Is and What Never Should Be or Never Shall Be. And my question is, while it looked kind of fun, I was like, why would they specifically reuse the set decor here? Because it was, I was like, boom, Gin. Like, it was so recognizable. I just wonder why they, if it was a conscious decision or if they just threw them in there because it looked fun. But I was like, those are so recognizable from an episode just a couple of weeks ago.
But also the return of the magic fingers.
Yes. Yes. That was like the one happy face we saw in this episode is from Dean when he notices the magic fingers.
He's like, oh boy, can't wait to use that later.
But across the hall, the door opens, and lo and behold, it's this guy Richie that Dean knows. Richie is this like New Jersey, New York Italian wearing a velvet tracksuit and a gold chain on his neck, and he's paying off a prostitute he calls his sister, who's like a good foot taller than him, by the way.
Yeah.
She was this like beautiful blonde woman, but all attitude. Pays her off she goes, and he's like, yeah, my sister, oh, my stepsister. This guy was such a stereotypical trope. I was like, be done with him.
Okay, you say trope, but those people are real.
I know,
exist.
But stereotypes exist because those characters exist.
Yeah.
But they played it. I
met them. I know them. It's just like I know exactly who this is.
Yeah, he's like, oh, did you see the rack on that broad? Too bad we had to gank her. It's like, oh, God.
I was not really annoyed by him at all. I thought he was pretty funny. I was just like, oh God, yes. And I didn't remember him. He was a surprise. I do not. Yeah. I mean, he's a short-lived character. Spoiler alert. Yeah. But it was just like, wow, I do not remember anybody like this in Supernatural. But between him and Dean's conversation, it's assumed that he is not that great of a hunter. Which seems a little obvious.
Right,
his
exactly.
general demeanor.
That he's in town to investigate the omens, but yet partakes in the prostitutes that are there.
Yeah.
I love there's a detail while they're talking, because Dean's like, hey, come on into our room and we'll talk, we'll catch up. Dean is like untucking, he is like taking off the trappings of the insurance adjuster guy. He like can't wait to get out of the hard clothes as we call them since the pandemic, and back into his Dean clothes. But he's also kind of he's not lecturing Richie, but he's like, Richie, I've told you before, you have to be better. You have to be careful or you're going to get yourself killed.
Right.
With this little laissez-faire attitude, like this is serious stuff. A little bit of a foreshadowing moment there. And in the meantime, Richie's phone rings, and of course his ringtone is like,
yeah.
It's this total porn ringtone, which reminds me, I forget where I was. I want to say I was working in Memphis, and it's the big no-no in a rehearsal hall is to like leave your phone on, so like if your phone rings during rehearsal, it's ooh, your phone rang, kind of like on set, if your phone rings during a take, you've ruined the take. Well, somebody had left their phone in their backpack and it started ringing during rehearsal, but they had also just stepped out of the room, so they weren't there to turn off their phone. But their ringtone was a woman screaming an orgasm.
Oh my God.
That was the sound of his ringtone. And normally I would like go and I would like, turn off someone's phone if it was ringing, just so we could just keep going. But I was like, I am not touching that phone. There's no way. We're like, oh, I'll get nope. So we all just stood there in silence and watching this ringtone. While it was, screaming as, oh my God.
Well, Richie isn't completely useless because he did do like a little bit of digging, and while he can't find any solid proof that demons are possessing people, but he does have a suspicion for this guy named Trotter, who just opened like this new nightclub that seems to be kind of the magnet for all of this activity just a couple months ago.
Yeah.
So, great. We have our suspect. Let's roll. And up they roll to this little, I don't know what you would call it, a mini Vegas in the middle of Ohio, but it's a veritable sea of early 2000s fashion, which it was just a joy to see. Kind of oh no, what were we thinking kind of way.
Yes, the mini skirts, the corset mini tops,
the low
lace.
Cut, yes, lace camis.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Amazing.
The bubble gum colors. Now, I love that they rolled into this town like to the tune of CCR Run Through the Jungle.
Yeah.
But this town is littered with beautiful women.
Yeah.
And wearing terrible 2000s fashion. Yeah. But they're shopping, they're drinking. Everybody's got like a martini glass or, a foofy drink in their hand. Yeah. And they are just, I was like, there's so many beautiful women here. Now, I don't know if they were all supposed to be prostitutes. I'm just saying that there was maybe the woman in the car who propositions Dean was a prostitute.
I would venture that, yes, she was a sex worker of some kind, which even just one, well, I don't know. I shouldn't say that. I was going to say it's an awful lot of prostitutes for like this small little Ohio town, but I guess maybe, I mean,
that's why I was like, maybe
behind
it's not
the window of social media, like who knows how many sex workers are actually out there.
But given the number of women we saw percentage-wise to the men, there were not a lot of men in this town. There was a ton of women, and they kept, every time somebody mentioned the sins of this city, so to speak, prostitution and gambling was the first thing that came out of their mouth.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't see in this episode, I didn't see anyone playing cards, anyone shooting craps, no one pulling on, one-arm bandits. There was no slot machine. There was no gambling here. They were focused on women in skimpy clothing in this episode. And I was a little perturbed by that, but that's why I want to say there was just women out there shopping, drinking, having a good time, not necessarily all sex workers.
Right.
It's funny that, in juxtaposition, you've got the women who are, quote, sex workers, in Sin City, but Dean in these last few episodes has been like living up his best singles life and has been, one night stand, or, doing the double mint twins with no demonizing of his behavior, so to speak. It's expected of Dean to, horn dog Dean and to, wants to sow his wild oats before he dies. So why are we looking at prostitution as like the sin, but okay.
Whether they're sex workers or not, Dean is just in heaven with like all of these low cut tops around. Like he even does the whole walks forward and then retreats to take a nice good look at that hot chick in the car before Sam has to pull him back out of frame
You're like,
to their
whoa
mission.
there.
Yeah.
Working here, working.
Yes. Which all of this is very odd for, as they say, a boarded up factory town. Like,
Sure.
wow, this place seems pretty alive.
Pretty hopping.
Run into Richie again in I don't even know what you would call it. It's not really an aloha shirt, but a bowling shirt maybe?
But tie silk.
From Canal Street. Forget about it. They had, of course, they had to throw in a little forget about it.
Yeah.
Let's forget about it. Forget about it.
Yeah, he's got like the stern bush out. He's still got the gold chain. He's still got his, what is that, a pork pie hat? Is that what they call that?
Yeah, somewhere like a mini fedora. It's called something. It was like the thing at that time, especially like with the Jersey Shore kids. Sam, I love how thoroughly entertained by this guy Sam is. You know, like from the minute he walked into the hotel room, he's just like
kind of smiling at him.
Okay. All right. This is a character. I enjoy him. Yeah.
So while they're in the bar after they've oogled there's a hottie body bartender, and they've ogled her and talked about her ass on a dime, which I'm not quite sure what that means.
I don't either. Yeah, he said you could stick that ass on a nickel. I have never heard that before. I don't know what it's supposed to imply. Maybe I'll have to ask a dude, you know?
Yeah, it's not like, he didn't say like bounce a quarter off of that. He's like, no, put that on and I was like, I don't get it. I mean, as maybe instead of a presidential face, you put her ass on it. So
maybe
because, I don't know.
I typed in you could stick that ass on a nickel, and it's just like a bunch of supernatural.
It's all supernatural. But okay,
sorry, I spent way too much time on that.
That's all right.
But it did catch Father's attention, or Padre.
Padre at the bar, who's doing shots.
Yep.
Because the clergy drinks for free apparently.
There is actually at this bar here in my neighborhood, the Tryon Public House, there is a priest who drinks there a lot. He's really nice.
But does he drink for free, I guess?
Probably not. But
he's
there
Public House,
often, and he does drink. And I don't know, he doesn't really do shots. He just sticks with beer. But no, he's a nice guy.
No reason why he shouldn't be.
Right.
So, but the priest kind of like, interrupts Sam and Dean talking about the bartender's butt, and mentions that, she used to also go to church and she should be going back to church. Mm-hmm. And the bartender kind of laughs him off, like, not going to happen. And the priest is like, all right, fine. I forget what his parting quip is. He says something like,
it's like, I better see your butt in church on Sunday, and then says to Dean, nickel or no nickel.
Or no nickel. So the next thing we see is this guy walks into the bar. Sam notices this guy walk into a bar, and he looks pretty wrecked. Looks
in a very obviously different mood than the general merriment of the bar.
Yeah.
And then he also sees a gun in his hand, like laying by his side, and he doesn't unfortunately get to him before he shoots this other guy at the pool table.
Yeah.
But Dean does get to him before he shoots himself, because that was going to be his next step.
Yep. So Dean tackles the guy with the gun. Sam's able to then whip out, his flask of holy water and sprinkle it on the guy, and the guy's like, what the hell?
Yeah.
I loved his reaction. He's like, what the hell, man? I'm like, you just shot a guy and you're pissed that someone's sprinkling water on you?
Right, yeah.
But the bottom line is, he's not a demon. He was pissed and heartbroken because the guy he just shot had slept with his wife. Yeah. So it wasn't a demon thing. It was just, one guy banging another guy's wife. But
the mystery is still there because he wasn't a demon. So, what the hell is going on? They decide to bail out of the bar before the newspaper can come and take their picture, because they are nervous with all of the cops around, rightfully so, considering their record.
Yes.
Then they notice that Richie is no longer there. Cut to Richie, who is indeed like on the arm of that hot bartender, even though Dean did not believe he would be able to land a girl that hot.
Right.
And they are entering this very beautiful house that seems to be like up in the country, and into a dungeon.
Dungeon? That's exactly what I wrote. I was like, Richie! Yeah.
But
you followed your dick down to a dungeon.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. And even though he kind of is like, oh, I don't know about this, then the allure of toys and sex with this hot chick is too strong.
Too much.
Because toys trump oils.
I have oils. You know, and here's my naivete, Sammy, you're going to laugh at this. When he first said that, do you know what I thought of? He's like, you know, do you want to go back to my motel? I have oils.
Uh-huh.
I literally thought he was talking about paintings on the wall.
Oh my God.
That was my very first thought, is that he's like, oh, well, at least I have paintings on the wall as opposed to this dungeon which has nothing. And then when she says I have toys, and he's like, yeah, well, toys trump oils. I was like, well, yeah, I guess, you know, if you don't want pretty artwork to look at. I had this entire monologue in my head.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
This from the girl who thought there were bum beads on the satanic altar in Faith.
Oh my God.
But that's, I knew you'd get a laugh out of that because that was the first thing that happened. And then when I took like a second and pulled back, I was like, Valerie. Yeah. He's not talking about artwork.
I thought for a second, like when you started this whole thing, like at first I thought he was talking about, I thought you were going to like say like essential oils, like for aromatherapy. This was so much better. This was so much better than I expected.
And you're welcome. And you're welcome. So Richie, intrigued by the sex toys and the lack of paintings on her walls,
yes,
follows her further into the basement and even comments like, aren't you afraid of being down here all by yourself, you know, while she's lighting all these, you know, same colored candles.
Yeah.
And she's like, you know, why would I be afraid when I have my very own hunter?
Yes.
And ding, you know, light bulb goes off for Richie. She closes her eyes, she opens her eyes, black, she's a demon, and proceeds to snap Richie's neck, reach out, snaps his neck, and not only snaps his neck, like rotates his head full 180 in one of the worst effects Supernatural has ever used up until this point.
Yeah.
It was so cheesy and so fake and so bad. I was just like, oh, that was really bad. That wasn't even comical. It was just bad. Boo, Supernatural. What were you thinking?
Right. I sometimes wonder if it's, you know, our TVs are so much better now. It's like LCD and plasma and even 4K. I don't have a 4K, but
what?
But honestly, it's like some of these shows and movies that were made during this time before the technology of television screen. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So I wonder how much that has to, like maybe it was, it wasn't the greatest special effects. Maybe they could just do what they could with the money that they had. But it probably, in 2007, 8, didn't look so
good
terrible
on the TVs.
On CW or WB, whatever it was at the time.
It was. You know? Yeah. It was just I guess given the other types of effects they've done, just physically, like, did it have to go CG? I guess is my question. Did it have to go to a digital effect? Right.
Couldn't they just use a dummy, like a mannequin or a hybrid of some sort? Yeah, I see what you're saying. It was really bad. It made me think of bugs, like those stupid like spiders on the wall, plastic. You know, that came out of the. But yes, it could have been pretty cool. That was probably again a Kripke Gamble special that they wanted, and then it didn't work out exactly. So and Richie's gone. Bye, Richie. Poor Richie.
Bye. Now, did he like reach out for her or something? Like, did he lunge at her?
Yes, once she opened her eyes, he had like a knife in his boot or a shoe or something. Like he kind of reached down, took a knife, took a swing at her. He did get a swing at her, but didn't really come close before she snapped his neck.
Snapped his neck, and
yeah, he tried. So Dean and Sam are back at the bar, and Dean is worried about Richie, wants to find him, and even says, like, he's stupid, but he's not a coward. He wouldn't just leave.
Right. He's so distracted that he's, like, not even eating the burger in front of him.
Yeah, yeah. And so he decides to go look for him because he's been calling him and he's not picking up. And Sam decides to go track Trotter since he saw Trotter eyeballing him during that whole fiasco with the guy with the gun the night before.
Yeah. So I want to point out this guy who is Trotter, the actor.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He's from Stargate. And a major character, though, on Stargate.
Yeah.
General Hammond. He's like the father figure of all of the military teams, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So he's the Bobby of the Stargate universe, basically. So big character. So I thought it was funny that I was like, oh, he's the bad guy.
Yeah.
This is gonna be great. He's gonna be the bad guy. Ooh. So Don S. Davis is his name. He used to be the stand-in for a character on MacGyver. Okay, that was a way back machine. All right, so so Sam goes off to track down to investigate Trotter.
We cut back to Bobby back in South Dakota, who is now like he's put the Colt back together. Now he's shooting it off, and he's doing like something with it to make it
he's
make it aim better, something. And it's it's a slow work that he seems to be enjoying, but at one point when he looks up after his adjustment, lo and behold, there is Ruby. Now I wonder, it wasn't clear in the scene or in this episode if Sam and Dean had told Bobby about this demon chick. I assume that they did because that's kind of their relationship. But he didn't really acknowledge, like, oh, this is you must be Ruby. You must be this chick that I've heard the boys talk about so much. He was just like, she immediately revealed to him that she's a demon, and he's like, great, I have a test subject, and then does shoot her with the Colt.
Right. Well, because she eggs him on. Like, why don't you just shoot me? Why don't you just shoot me?
Setting it up for, like, calling a bluff, and he's just like, no, I'm going to shoot you.
I am going to shoot you, yeah. So, I mean, I would say yes, because she didn't do the demon eyes thing for him, did she? Did she have to do the blank here, my black? Oh, so.
Yeah, it was like right at the start. It was like before he even really said anything. He was, I don't know.
So maybe he did know, because I would think Bobby would have initially just shot her.
Yeah.
Or, tried to capture her and exercise or something. I don't think he would have taken the time to banter with her. But he's also a little bit more level-headed than the boys. But yeah, so she totally antagonizes Bobby into, him shooting her, which shows us, of course, that the cult does not kill demons right now. So whether the cult is back together, it's still not a demon-killing gun.
No. But she offers to help make it work.
Yeah. Sam, now back at the Trotter's office, I guess Dean calls Sam to check in, and Sam's like, can't talk now, I might be in trouble.
He's like trying to sneak in, not doing a great job, or it's like too close in proximity. But he does get in, and he searches around through the desk, and he's there for, I don't know, an undetermined amount of time, but isn't finding anything. And then Trotter and his bodyguard or whatever, or assistant, come back into the room and catch him.
Yeah, catch him, hold him at gunpoint, like, what are you doing? I'm going to call the police. You're rifling through my stuff, breaking and entering. And Sam's like, what? You're going to call the police? It's like, that's not what demons do.
Right.
Yeah. But Sam, in his Samness, is able to, like, spin, grab the gun, and get the upper hand on Trotter and his, business partner. And while he's holding the gun on him, takes out his holy water flask and is like, sprinkle, sprinkle, sprinkle. Nothing on Trotter. Sprinkle, sprinkle, sprinkle on the other guy. Nothing. And Trotter's like, what the hell is wrong with you?
Yeah.
So again, they're not demons. They are not the head of this operation of,
No.
taking over the town with demons.
Yeah.
And Sam, now here's funny. Sam is like, oh God, this is actually kind of embarrassing,
Yes.
He's like, I'm just gonna leave you with your gun. I'm gonna take your bullets, but I'm gonna give you back your gun. Sorry about that. And he literally like tiptoes out of the room.
And he has this face. I love his face as he's walking out. This whole exchange again was like another thing of comedic beauty. And I think Jared is not getting himself enough credit as to being a comedic actor, because it was just as okay, well, I'm gonna take these, okay, and you can have the gun. You have a nice day. And it was just his like, like he had that face as he walked out of the room as a, oh God.
Oh, we were really wrong on that one.
Yeah.
But I was like, why was that so fun? Like, why did he turn into like
a bumbling idiot?
Yes, I wrote that down. I was like, hey, well, I said a blithering idiot, but yeah, that's exactly what I wrote. I was like, why so apologetic? Why not just be like, fuck, we were wrong, and out he goes. But he didn't. It was cute and it was funny, but I was like, why? Why did he suddenly do this? Very un-Hunter-like. But
right.
So Trotter, not a demon and not part of this, town conspiracy of demon stuff happening. In the meantime, Dean back at the bar.
Yes, because they had told each other to meet at the bar in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And so Dean is there ready to meet. And here comes this really hot babe coming up to him. Oh boy. He didn't even have to do any work for her.
And she's a prostitute who propositions him for $400. But because he's such a good-looking guy and a hero, because he did throw himself on the guy with the gun, she'll do him for $200.
Yeah, he gets a discount.
He gets a discount. And that didn't go over well with Dean, and that didn't go over well with the prostitute.
No.
And the bartender overhears this, hot bartender who snapped the neck of Richie. It's like, did you just strike out with a prostitute? How does that go? And Dean kind of leans into the flirt. He's like, well, it's because I, told her I was into the bartender. It escalates quickly.
Very, very, because he asks her for a drink after work, and she's like, how about right now?
Yeah, we'll just leave right now. And Dean's like, well, okay.
Okay, great.
Grabs her coat, off they go. And I love this. I'm like, I'm assuming it was her boss at the bar, like just watches her leave and isn't like, hey, middle of your shift, second time you've left today. I mean, nope, this is just what she does apparently.
Yep.
Casey takes Dean to the beautiful house with the dungeon.
Yep.
And as they're walking back down the stairs, Casey kind of has this look on her face. And at first I didn't know what it meant. I didn't know what this look meant as she was coming down the stairs.
Yeah.
And in the background, you hear Dean say, oh, by the way, if you're looking for if you're looking for Richie's body, I came by earlier and I buried it. I buried his body since he just left it here to rot.
Yeah.
In your basement.
Yeah. Because he tracked him through, he found out a way to track the GPS on Richie's cell phone. So Dean was there earlier. He had this whole thing up. Very smart, Dean.
Yes. So he was in on it the whole time. And not only that, when she's like, "Arr!" and she turns to grab him, lo and behold, he's also put a devil's trap on the floor, and now she's trapped. Yes. Which I love that demons can walk into the trap and not know it. Yeah. That is foolproof. I love it. I wish there was something like that. in real life. He's like, oops, sorry, trapped you, and pulls out a notebook with exercising spell and starts to try to exercise her. And she of course then whips up the demon wind. The room is a storm, a hurricane happens in the room, blows all of the pages out of Dean's book. Which he didn't try very hard to hold on to them, by the way.
No, he didn't. He just kind of looked at him like, oh no, what do I do? And she also creates basically a cave-in, near the entryway, like an earthquake happens essentially, and then all this stone wall falls down, trapping them both inside. Here's my question.
Yes.
If she could cause cracks in the ceiling, or
Why didn't
around the
she?
wall. Why couldn't she create a crack through the demon trap like
Right.
that one
Which
demon
they've done
did?
before. Yeah, I was gonna
Yeah.
say they've done this before, but good question. Because I thought that's what she was gonna do in that whole like crumbly thing. I thought she was
Yeah.
just gonna break the seal, so to
Oh, you
speak.
know what though? I think if I'm remembering correctly, because it was in the first episode, it was with the seven deadly sins. It was Pride who did it. I don't think he was in the trap when he did it. I think that he
He
stopped
broke
himself
somebody
and
else out
them.
and then broke
They're
it.
like, hold it, just a second, and then they look up and then they see it. So he was not inside of the trap when he did it. Like then he did his
Gotcha.
like crack. So maybe because she was inside of it, she couldn't
It limited her
do
abilities.
it. Yeah.
Interesting. All right, I'll buy that.
I'll
I'll
buy
buy
that for
that.
now until in the future when I do believe that they
They could
demons
have.
have, yeah, they could.
Yeah.
So, anyway, so now they're both trapped in the dungeon.
Dean doesn't have his exercising pages, but he tries to do it from memory, and she's like, I think you just ordered a pizza. Like this is not working out for you. And he kind of like admits his defeat, he's
Yeah.
like, I don't know it. And she's like, everyone says that Sam's the brains in the family, and he's like, everyone,
Yeah.
so once again, everybody in hell knows about the Winchesters. Like, not everyone, but it's like she says, you guys, the Winchester
You
brothers
guys
are
are
famous.
famous.
Yeah, we know who you are. And Dean's like, well, you know what, Sam's coming for me. I'll be rescued in a little bit.
Yes,
And
but then she also reveals, it's like, oh, you think you're the only one with a partner?
yeah, bum bum
So
bum.
now it's just we got to play the waiting game of who's going to arrive first.
So back at the bar, Sam's finally shown up, and he's looking for Dean.
Yes, and he's being eyeballed by that same pink prostitute that approached Dean.
Yeah, she's kind of relentless.
Oh, a little bit, yeah, with not even using her words. So Dean's talking to the other bartender, and for the right amount of cash, he does end up getting the information. He gets her name, he gets
her apartment.
Yeah, her address, like when they went, all the things. Off Sam goes to the address that he was given. Meanwhile, Casey and Dean have now kind of gotten to know each other a little bit.
They settled in.
Yeah, real quick, having a heart-to-heart. And then she basically says, we didn't really do anything. We made a business deal with this guy, and then we just
let
what
humans
happened.
do their thing. We just led them to the temptation, and they just picked it up and ran with it.
Yeah.
They're just doing, this is human nature. This is all human nature.
And because of humans' like natural affinity for sin, that's how we will win this war.
Yeah.
That's how all of this begins. That's not how it ends, but that's how it begins.
Right. So, that right there, that one little scene was, I was like, and scene, like end of show right there. That's all they needed to do. But in the meantime, Sam has gone to the address that the bartender gave him, and it's Casey's apartment. Casey the girl, not Casey the demon. And he finds sulfur there. He steps on a pair of pig slippers, which I was like, what?
I know it's a very cluttered apartment, but it's filled with very like cutesy girly things.
Girly, yeah. And she's got pictures of her boyfriend.
Exactly. Yeah. And there's like a little crucifix like laying over the photo. So
right. She was involved in her religion somehow, and it just shows the human side of her. This is the girl. This is Casey the girl, the human.
Yeah.
Back to Dean and Casey in the basement. Oh wait, does Dean calls Bobby, right?
No.
Does Dean call Bob? Oh, he does.
I don't think he can. I think he's trying
not Dean, I'm sorry. Sam calls Bobby. Doesn't he say, I found sulfur and Dean's not here?
I don't know. He goes back to the bar to that guy that he like paid for information and said, hey, your info didn't check out. She wasn't there. And he's like, well, I don't know what to tell you. I'm sorry you couldn't get your rocks off.
He does call Bobby. I made a note.
Okay.
And it was just a short call. So it was just
maybe a voicemail or something.
Yeah, it's like, I I found sulfur. I can't find Dean. Something's up.
Okay. So Casey and Dean are now their discussion has turned philosophical. He says something flippant like, "Oh, thank God." And that automatically turns into, "Oh, so you believe in God? You think he exists? I'm surprised at you." And she reveals that the demons have their own little higher power. It's like, what? Satan? Lucifer? What?
Yeah, she's like, that's what you guys call him, you call him the devil, but Lucifer means light bringer. So what makes you think that we don't follow a higher cause of our own?
Yeah. She gives a little Bible lesson that he was an angel and then he fell from grace.
Because of God.
Yeah.
And this, and it's like, and this is, and he made us in his image, basically, which is it's the yin and yang of, humans made in God's image and now demons made in Lucifer's image. So it's the same story, just the black side of the white side, the light side of the dark side, so the yin and the yang. The little humor in here is, Dean's like, oh, so demons were made in Lucifer's image. Is Dick Cheney one of yours?
Yeah.
Got to throw in a Dick Cheney joke.
Yes.
He's not a demon, but he does have a spot in hell waiting for him. So
yes.
I also like that Casey's like, you can see how we're actually not that different. Demons and humans, not that different. We all are following our higher causes here. And so Dean kind of tucks in and is like, okay, what's hell like? Is hell really that bad? And she's honest with him, well, or so we think. But I mean, it sounds like she's being honest. She's like, it sucks. Right.
Yeah, because she knows, she makes a reference to his deal. She's like, oh, that's right. You're going to be joining us soon. And she doesn't offer him any comfort. And it wasn't in a malicious way. It wasn't to like you're going to burn in hell, ha, ha, ha. Yeah, it was very like, no, it's really awful there. And why do you think we want to not go back?
Right. She does do a little Princess Bride call out, which I liked. She's like, it's a pit of despair.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was like, I really like this girl for being a demon because she's being honest and she's not taunting him. She's not saying, I know more than you. She's just like, this is what it is. She can read him, clearly she knows when he's looking at her like with a little bit of lust, because who wouldn't,
Right.
The conversation continues. So back at the bar, Sam's now telling the priest that he thinks he's like, Dean's in trouble, and I think he left with Casey, so Casey and Dean are missing or in trouble. Do you know where they might be? And the priest is like, okay, I think I know where she is, and if she's in trouble, we have to go help her. And I was like, wow.
Until he puts his coat on, and you see his black demon eyes out of Sam's vision, so he doesn't see, but we see.
Yeah.
Thus, we have the bad guy.
The bad guy, yes.
I also like in this little conversation there was a tiny little blip of like the family business shout out. Because he's just like, right, you work with your brother and you're doing insurance, and Sam's like, yeah, it's kind of like a family business thing.
Yep. So Dean and Casey still chatting, and she admits, she's like, Dean, you're kind of likable, despite what other people are saying about you. You're likable. She admires Dean for the deal as opposed to calling him like a sucker for the deal he made. She admires that he took a stand and did what he thought was right to save his brother, which is different than any demon thing we've heard before.
Right. And then she asks him if he's scared, and he puts on a brave face. It's like, nah, it's fine. It's liberating, actually. But he's obviously lying. You can see it behind his eyes. He's she prods a little bit. It's like, really? Are you sure?
Because he no longer has a year. He only has months now. It's not. Yeah, time's ticking.
Yeah. So in the car on the way to the house, Father is driving and he's chatting up Sam. There's a lot of code words going on here because the priest is like, oh, so insurance. Do you really like your job? And Sam says, yes, because I like to help people. I like being able to help people. And then the father says, see, I see you as ahead of the pack. You could be a true leader. You could
Yep.
be, something big. So
You seem so smart. You could do great things.
great things. Yeah, exactly. So he's obviously talking about the demon army position that he was supposed to be.
And I'm like, why
Sam's
doesn't
talking
Sam
about
pick up on this?
hunting.
Yeah, oh yeah. Why doesn't Sam think, what does the priest think is like, what's wrong with being an insurance salesman, or an insurance adjuster, whatever he is? But it's all very yellow eyes. But Sam doesn't pick up on it, and off they drive. Dean asks Casey, still in the basement. Dean's like, so what was the plan? The door's open, you guys came out. What's the plan now? And this is where we find out that Yellow Eyes actually has a name,
Yes.
Azazel.
Yes.
And he's like, "Ooh, Azazel." She's like, "He has a name."
Yeah.
And the plan was everyone was following Azazel, and they were then going to follow Sam.
Yeah.
But Sam didn't step up to the plate. So not only is Azazel dead, but Sam isn't leading. So now what you have is chaos. You have demons who are vying to be the leader in Sam's absence. So what you have is competition. And not only that, but now the demons are going to come for Sam.
Right.
Because he is seen as the competition to beat in order to lead these armies of demons.
It's kind of like a one-sided Hunger Games, meaning Sam does not know that he's competing in this.
Right, exactly. And he doesn't know what's coming.
But she does throw in, she's like, you know what, I was ready. If Sam would have pulled up and been a leader, I was ready to follow him. I would have done
Sam.
it. I don't know if that was supposed to be a compliment or not, but
I don't know. I think it just shows the gravity of how big a role. I mean, it's one thing to hear them say it, but when she says, I was ready to follow your brother is supposed to be and could still be basically, this leader of demons. I think that's a pretty frightening thing. I don't think she meant to say it frightening. She was just being honest with.
No. I think she was being honest too, but I don't know. It's just like, was that supposed to make Dean feel better about his brother? I don't know. Anyway.
I don't think so.
So Sam and Father approach the house, and Dean hears Sam yelling for him. They find each other through like a grate on the ground, and Sam mentions he is with the father. Dean kind of looks back at Casey, she tips him off.
A slight nod, yeah.
Yeah, or like, she doesn't at least try to hide it. She is very obvious. That's like, aha.
This is my,
Yeah.
This is both, yeah.
Yeah.
And gives Dean a chance to warn Sam, basically, which he does. But even that's a little too late because Dean is then confronted by the priest who shows his, black demon eyes.
Sam is approached by
I keep saying Dean, I'm so sorry.
It's
yes.
Okay.
Sam, who is on the outside, runs into the priest who shows his demon eyes.
And he is not able, he grabs the holy water, but he's not fast enough because the demon can like foof it away with his mind. Then he foofs Sam away, I think, off his feet. And then all of a sudden, a gunshot goes off. And it's Bobby, who appeared. Yes, from the mist.
Right. He shot a statue.
Yes,
but Bobby appears, but then gets mind blasted by the priest. But Bobby's able to give Sam the colt, like he's laying on the ground. He's like, take it, take it and go type of thing.
Yes, Ruby's also there because Sam does make a mention of, how did you even know we were here? And then there's Ruby being like, Ruby, you heard him, you gotta go.
Yeah. And so I wrote
no
down
time for questions.
Right? Yeah, go. But I wrote down, I was like, turns out Bobby listened to Ruby. And I'm like, this is hard for me to swallow. It's hard for me to swallow that not only did he listen to Ruby, but that he got in a car with her and drove out here. I mean, I'm assuming she must have known that they needed to save Sam and Dean. But again, for me, knowing what I know about Bobby, it's hard for me to like what scenes happened that we didn't get to see. Like, how convincing was she?
Right.
To make Bobby do this, and clearly she must have been very convincing.
Right.
But I want to see that. I want to see those.
Yeah, I wanted to see like them working together, like trying to make these bullets and like work on this gun together. Yeah, that would have been a really good episode to see.
Right? Right. So that was just I wanted to see this.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
the priest busts his way, through all the broken concrete and stuff and makes his way into the basement.
Casey stops him before he gets into the trap. Then he just punches the ground and creates a crack through
Because
the
he's
seal.
outside of the trap. Yep.
Yes.
And then they had this gross makeout.
Yeah.
They like embrace each other and suck each other's tonsils. I was like, oh, that's not right. That's not right. I think Dean kind of feels the same way. He's like, what?
Yeah.
You and you? You know? And apparently they've been together for millennia in hell, and now that they're out of hell, they're still together. The priest then tries to kill Dean.
Yeah, goes straight for him, goes straight for the throat, and is like starting to squeeze.
Yep.
And Casey like before he even gets to Dean, he's just like, no, just let him go. It's fine. We'll just let's us go and leave him be. Father doesn't listen to her, just starts squeezing his throat, and Casey now more desperately is just like, leave him alone, don't kill him.
Yep.
Stop. Enter Sam, who appears with the Colt and immediately shoots the father.
Yep. No questions asked.
No. Lo and behold, well, he does have Dean in a vice grip with his hand, so of course I would have boom,
done the same
thing. Dead.
Yep.
But lo and behold, the Colt now works because the bullet that is shot into the father now does that cool like red electricity thing.
Yep. No smoking out of the demon. The demon didn't leave the body.
No.
Boom. Demon's dead. Priest is dead.
And then Sam points the gun at Casey, and before, it's like Dean just barely before Sam pulls the trigger tries to stop him, tries to say, no, wait, don't. But it's too late. Sam has pulled the trigger, and bullet goes into Casey, and now Casey, the demon, and the girl are dead. Sam looking very stoic about it.
Yeah, a little hard, I would say.
Yeah. It felt like to me this was like triggering a flashback for Dean back to the night of the Devil's Gate and with Jake. You know, like that whole look on
that same look,
Sam's face. I didn't feel, if there had been more time in between Dean saying, no, wait, don't, and then the gunshot, that would have been worse. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
But it really was just like almost at the same time that it happened. So I don't feel like Sam really knew. Like, of course, he didn't know. Like, oh, Dean actually developed a relationship with this demon. Like, maybe they could get some information for her. Maybe we could just exorcise her.
Well, which is why I think Dean didn't say anything after that. Like, dude, what were you doing? You know, he didn't. He just let it go. You know, so I think it was kind of the same thing. But we, as an audience member, got to see a glimpse of Sam not taking the moment to recognize that demons are inhabiting humans. You know, the way he normally would. Had their positions been reversed, you know, if he had been in Dean's position, he would have been doing the same thing, which is, wait, they're human.
Yeah. But I thought about this, though, with Bobby and Ruby earlier, because Bobby shoots a shot straight into Ruby's heart. She's a human.
Yeah.
And wasn't he the one earlier in, like, season 1 who was just like, hey, you can't, like, kill this demon because this is a human that's being possessed by a demon.
Right, you know? You've now shot her body.
She fell out a window. She's broke. She's probably dead already. So
interesting.
Yeah. So back in town, Dean and Bobby are just, like, kind of walking around discussing. Bobby is a little bit like, you know what, he did what he had to save your life. It's unfortunate that 2 humans are dead, but, you know, do what you gotta do, basically.
Yeah, but Dean's like, are you sure? I think there might be something wrong. Like, and he tells Bobby about what Azazel said to him in the cemetery, which is, are you sure you brought Dean back? Like, what you brought back? Sam. Oh, Sam. Sam? If what you brought back was truly Sam, and he tells Bobby this, and Bobby's like, it's Sam. It's Sam. There's nothing wrong with Sam. You know, and Dean's like, well, all right, you're right. Yeah. No, there's nothing wrong with Sam. you know, and they both kind
I
of
think
brush
they were
it
both
off,
kind of convincing themselves that it was
yeah.
okay. Yeah.
But that's what I mean, though. They're like, yeah, you
Yeah,
know,
it's
he's
probably
fine.
fine. It's fine.
It's
It's probably
probably
fine.
fine. Yeah. Let's not talk about this anymore, shall we?
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
Yeah. Good. The next thing we see, which I also thought this could have been the end of the episode, boom, right there.
Yeah.
But there's one more scene, and now it's Sam and Ruby. And Ruby hasn't gotten any thanks for anything she's done.
Yeah.
You know, Sam is like, he's angry. And she's like, you know what? It's going to get worse. This is all going to go, it's going to get worse. It's going to go against your nice Sam nature to do the things that you will have to do. So she already knows there's something coming, you know, that he has to face, whether he wants to or not.
Right. And it is worth noting that he does feel a lot of guilt for killing these two humans. Like, he recognizes the fact that, you know, he had to kill the humans that these demons were inhabiting. She tries to make him feel better by saying, don't worry, they were probably going to die anyway afterwards.
Because that's what demons do, though. She's like, what'd she say? Like, rode hard, put away wet, basically, which is they would have just exhausted those bodies and left them for dead anyway.
Right.
Which is like, okay. Okay, I get it.
Thanks.
They had a quick death this time.
Yeah.
But at first, like, Sam doesn't buy it. He's like, I'm just gonna kill you now.
Yeah.
And he holds the gun to her throat, basically. And she's like, go ahead. If that's how you want to do this, go ahead. And he doesn't. So he knows she's right. This is how this is gonna go.
Yeah. And she leaves him with, like, don't worry, I will help you every step of the way. I'll be that little fallen angel on your shoulder.
On your shoulder, yeah.
As she's in the camera view of her over his shoulder.
Right. Yeah. So that's how the episode ends, is an unwilling, you know, alliance again with Ruby. Ruby is situating herself with Sam, with Dean, with Bobby, you know, and making herself indispensable at this point. So how did she fix the cult? Dun dun. How did she convince Bobby to listen to her?
That's a big question.
But the walkaway, the biggest walkaway, is that the Winchesters may have killed those demons, but the demons ultimately were not responsible for what was happening in that town. It was humanity. That was, you know, it's just human nature. And, you know, even Bobby says that. He's like, our job is the demons. We're not, we can't fix the humans. You know, that's not our job. They're right. You know, if you build it, they will come. You know, you put the temptation out there, that is human nature. Why wasn't there sulfur in the church? I'm going back to the, you know, they keep using sulfur as an indicator of demon activity, but only when it's convenient.
Yeah, they didn't search the church, though. Not really. Like, they just, like, kind of talked to the priest guy in there.
And they didn't go to, like, the priest's apartment. I don't know. I just don't understand.
Right, or, like, look in the nook. It's always in a nook and cranny, the sulfur. It's never just, like, laying around on the floor or on the church pew. It's always, like, against the windowsill or behind the picture frame.
To the,
Yeah, so they did not look in the nook and crannies of the church.
it's demon dandruff is what it is. You really got to look for it.
Yes. You're learning a little bit more about, like, what the demons are doing out and about. Now the goal, and now it's chaos, but also, now we realize that they're coming after Sam. Like, he's kind of, like, the number one target.
Yeah. So look out, Sam.
Yeah. So I thought it was interesting how the tables have turned, because in past seasons, Dean has been so, if it's evil, kill it, you know, no questions asked. And here he was actually humanizing a demon that he was, like, stuck down there with. I mean, granted, he had no way to kill her. He didn't have the cold. He didn't have his exorcism book. So he was kind of forced to talk to her. He could have just chosen not to. He could have just not spoken to her.
Could have just been, But she also, you know, didn't treat him like a filthy human.
Right.
You know, because she even admits, you know, how would you feel if you were forced to bow down to something that was lesser than you? which is how the demons feel about humans, which is why Lucifer didn't want to bow down to humans because, in this story, why he was banished.
Right.
So, but she didn't treat Dean that way, and Dean didn't treat her that way, at least once they started talking. They were just...
And I think that if he would have had the Colt in his hands at that point, like if Sam had thrown him the Colt to then shoot Casey, I don't think that he would have.
I don't think so either. Because also his intent when he first walked down, even knowing that she killed Richie, was to exorcise the demon and not just shoot her and kill her.
Yeah.
So, but maybe also knowing that you can't just, if you kill the body, the demon still escapes. So you can't, like, what would be the point of killing Casey? Because the demon would have left her body. If you don't kill the demon. So I don't know. So many different venues, so many different options.
Right. Okay.
What's the next one? I didn't even look.
The next one, I ended up watching it just because it was
there.
It was there, and I had seen it not too long ago, and I actually really like this episode, so I don't mind watching it over and over again. But it's called Bedtime Stories, and a very good episode, a memorable one, I think. So that'll probably be a really good one to talk about next week, and I'm excited. Yay. So thank you so much for listening this week. Please make sure to follow, subscribe, and rate us anywhere you can do so on podcast networks. You can also follow us and engage with us on social media. We are at Salt and Burn This everywhere. Okay, thank you, everybody. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.